Hello there, and a very warm welcome to Celtic Fans TV. I'm Stuart. I'm taking my glasses off, and I am here today to provide you with some content because Paul, out in Krakow, unfortunately was corralled away by police and was unable to do his post-match video last night, and then he's been caught in all sorts of queues and stuff like that, and he's not had a chance to do it. So me and Chris are jumping on to make sure that Celtic fans have their content today after last night's Champions League clash against Shakhtar Donetsk. Chris, first of all, mate, how are you doing? I hear you're back in God's country, is that right?
Yep, just back in Edinburgh. I flew in on Wednesday morning, so yesterday morning, and then had a little bit of sleep, and then went out to watch the game last night with a couple of pals, and happy to jump on and do some post-match content.
Aye, good man. Right, so let's start off with the fact that Celtic drew 1 each last night, but I have never seen us control a game away from home in Europe like that. For 70, maybe even 75 minutes of that game, we were caught with one very good counter-attack where Callum McGregor got his spaces wrong, Cameron Carter-Vickers maybe advanced, slight miscommunication, Mudryk, absolutely deadly finisher, really, really lethal on that left flank, cutting in for Shakhtar Donetsk. But it was the only real dangerous attack I can remember. And to be honest, though I'm loath to criticise him because of how well he's done for Celtic, Joe Hart, I think, just kind of ducks below it and it sort of goes through him a wee bit. And he's probably going to feel that he should have done better with that goal. But other than that, they hardly threatened us. And the only disappointment at the end of the day is the result. But in terms of me, mate, I look back at that game and I'm just thinking absolute pride. And in terms of the team being a work in progress and looking at how far we've come in that year and a bit under Ange Postecoglou, what an adventure this is. But what about you? What are your kind of overbearing emotions after that result last night?
Yeah, I feel the same way, and it's quite nice to be sitting here saying that you're disappointed that you took a 1-1 draw at an away game in the Champions League. But I think Ange said it best in his post-match interview that obviously he's disappointed with the result based on how the game transpired, but absolutely delighted with the performance that we put in. I mean, we were absolutely the better team. I think possession in the end was pretty even. But it's what you do with the ball when you have it, especially in the forward areas. And we really caused Shakhtar a lot of problems last night. I mean, the start of the game was absolutely incredible. Right again from the kickoff, we had a brilliant chance with Kyogo. He really could have made that 1-0 in the first minute. And that we set out our intent right from the get-go. And just to back up, I think a lot of Celtic fans were calling for Haksabanovic to start the game, and they got their wish. And he obviously was the creator of the opening goal with, I think, Juranovic. I'm not sure if he was trying to pass it to him. He cleared the ball, and it so happened that it fell. And then I'll take Haksabanovic one-on-one any day, and he slips a brilliant ball in for Hatate. Hatate gets a little bit of luck, but I would say that if he doesn't score, Kyogo's putting it into the empty net because we completely exposed them. And that was a brilliant start to the game. You're 1-0 up inside 10 minutes. And then, like other Celtic teams of the past, Stuart, we concede a poor goal. I mean, Kalmak gets caught out trying to press the ball. Juranovic and Carter-Vickers especially were just too far forward in the press. And we just got exposed. And that Mudryk boy he's a player. My mate John, who I was there watching the game with, big Celtic fan as well, he said the same thing. He felt Joe Hart maybe could have done a bit better with the goal. I personally didn't see it that way. But then Shakhtar had a spell for the next 5-10 minutes where they caused us a few problems. There was a goal disallowed. But then after that, we really, really settled in. We really settled in after that spell that they had, and we played some excellent football to close out the first half and had some other chances that, I would have liked to have seen us taken.
Yeah, no, I'm absolutely with you there. I think the key thing for me with regards to that Celtic display was that control of the match that I said. And other than that spell after the goal, and what that does is it does show the one sort of sense of naivety maybe that we have as a team at this level. We're still learning, because against Real Madrid, after the first goal goes in, the second goes in quite quickly. And I think Shakhtar's equaliser similarly rattled us. And I think that was the only thing. But their only spell in the game was after that goal. They got the goal from, a lucky counter-attack. And then they could have had a second, were it not for Mudryk being a hair offside. And I think the ball maybe crossed the line anyway. And then break of the ball. And then at the second time, Askin puts it away. But obviously the goal's chopped off. But at that point, Celtic were on the ropes a bit. But it was the only spell in the game that was like that. Other than that, we had complete control. But what that says to me is the main learning for the team at this level is not to lose our composure. If we concede a goal against Ross County, it's not as if Celtic are panicking. Like, it's like, you know what, we'll just go back up the park and score again. So I think we've just got to get into that kind of mindset. And it's easier said than done, of course. And obviously it's a much higher standard of opposition. But if we can get into that mindset in European games as well, then that's going to be absolutely massive for Celtic moving forward. And I think the one thing that stuck out to me was, before the game, we did a Twitter space, as we're doing in the Champions League match day kind of mornings around lunchtime. And me, Callum, Paul and Darren were all on, and we were chatting. And one of the points that came up was what the Shakhtar coach said. And he said that the team would set up to counter-attack Celtic. And to be honest, going into the game, that filled me with no trepidation, but it wasn't what I wanted to hear. Like, I wanted to hear that it would come out and go at us and it'd be hammer and tongs. But I think the way that we handled that assignment, and the way that we handled being away from home and still asserting ourselves at this level and playing our football at this level, was brilliant. And I think Reo Hatate, obviously you mentioned, was the man who, I think the goal was officially given as an own goal in the end. But for a wee while, they were giving it to him, and he's probably unlucky not to get it. But you're right, Kyogo would have turned it in anyway. And Celtic cut Shakhtar open various times. And I think that's the thing that gives me a lot of hope. As you say, Kyogo, probably, it's a really good save with the foot by Trubin, the goalkeeper, but probably should take that chance early on. Giakoumakis has won late on. Maeda has won late on. But no wonder the manager praised the performance, because that was, barring the wee period where we got rattled after the equalising goal, was relentless. And it was what you expect for Celtic. And I think it was another step forward after the Real Madrid game. If you look at it as a progression for the team and what we're trying to do in a kind of holistic sense, then I think that progression can be seen game to game so far in the Champions League. And if we can take that step further and beat Leipzig in the next game, then that would be another real statement. And from the evidence that I saw last night, then I don't think we need to go there with any fear at all.
No, none. I don't have any fear, to be honest. After last night, like we had a fantastic spell against Real Madrid in the first half, and I think your point about the naivety is well made. But also, Real are a class team, and they will punish you for your mistakes. And we also probably got punished last night for Shakhtar's goal as well, just being a little bit out of position within the system. But honestly, if you had said to me that we would go away in Europe, albeit it's a neutral venue for both clubs, because that's obviously not where Shakhtar play their home games, and we would play that well and control the match for huge spells and have, I would say, two glaring opportunities in the second half to win the game. First with Jota, who I thought was quiet in the first half, Stuart, but he really came on to a game in the second half. I thought he was absolutely superb in the second half. He just looked like he was going to make something happen. And then obviously when the ball fell to Giakoumakis, I just felt like he was going to burst the net. And he just put it past the post. And then a few minutes after that, Juranovic plays an absolutely superb ball. And Maeda was on the stretch, so I'm not going to say that was a guilt-edged chance. Giakoumakis is the one you would want back if you really could. And we would have been full value for 3 points. And maybe that's just the only thing after the two games. We're sitting in third in the group, but everything's in our hands now, as you say, going into the Leipzig game. It is away from home, but I don't fear playing them, and I don't fear going away from home just based on what I've seen last night under Ange, and just the belief the players have in what they're being asked to do and how they're executing that on the park is absolutely superb. And what a time to be a Celtic fan that you're not fearing going away from home in the Champions League. Because if we can take 3 points, and you'd have to assume that Real Madrid will beat Shakhtar at home, we could be tied with 2 home games to follow with Leipzig and Shakhtar, and we could be in control of our own fate, which would be, that would be amazing. I mean, we're jumping ahead of ourselves, but I don't fear that we can't put ourselves in that position, which is a really fantastic place to be under Ange. 12 months on from where he took over is just unbelievable.
It is unbelievable, mate. You're absolutely right. It's the progression that we've seen in that Celtic team in that time. Good time for an alarm ad set to go off. The progression we've seen in the Celtic team in that time is frankly remarkable. And I don't remember being... I mean, you could make the argument, right, that why are you so proud after a 3-0 home defeat and just getting a draw away from home? But it's the way that we're setting up to do it. It's not like we're scraping draws or something like that. And I think there's always been a real value with Celtic Football Club and the way that you go about your business. And people talk about playing the Celtic way. That has, I mean, for me, this Celtic team is playing in a modern, a mature, a style that suits European football. And what we are is we're a young team learning at this level. But if you, as you say, contrast that with 12 months ago to where we are now, it's absolutely remarkable what the managers managed to do and what the group of players have managed to do as well in terms of how they've developed. And on that note of development, Greg Taylor, my goodness gracious me, the development in him as a footballer, man. Like last night, he was absolutely outstanding, superb. Like, and there was so many times you saw him, and he's the left back, obviously, and he's like at the other flank or heading towards the other flank or right in the middle of the park, and he's just got that inverted wing back role down, and he still does all the rudimentary things that you would expect for a fullback as well. Make sure he gets in the overlap, tucks in defensively, knows when to push out. He's really, really developed into a fantastic footballer. You mentioned Jota as well. 2 magical runs, absolutely magical runs. And the second one, I think he's just a wee bit off balance and just doesn't quite get the punch needed in the finish. But Shakhtar, to be fair, threw their bodies in the line at the back. And were it not for some very, very stout defending for them, surely we would have got that second goal, as well as Celtic's own profligacy, missing a few chances. And the other standout performer for me, along with those 2, was Reo Hatate. I think he's just a player that belongs at this level. And I think he's a player that his ability, because we've seen so many players that are technically proficient come to Scotland, and sometimes like they just don't fancy it away at Dundee United on a Tuesday or Wednesday night, you know, in the rain. Like, but he's not like that. He can play in those games, and then in the big occasions he shines. I watched the Real Madrid game back. He was superb in that. I think obviously his debut against Rangers, he was absolutely brilliant, and he seems to have been good in the derby games as well. And then last night, which was the first Champions League game where Celtic were asserting themselves, even though it was away from home, we were the ones that were the instigators last night, and we played in that. And Reo Hatate was he just looked like the ultimate cultured midfield player. And I think if he plays for a Premier League team right now, you're talking about him, and he's a 60, 70 million pound midfielder. Obviously, with the way that the prices are in Scotland, it's probably more likely that we get around half that. But I think it's very, very likely that once he does move on, Celtic beat the Kieran Tierney transfer record, because I just think he's got absolutely everything that you would want in the modern midfielder. And I think last night's performance exemplified that.
Yeah, I think the other thing too that we're really seeing with Hatate is that his fitness is where you would really want it to be. Like he played so much football already last year when he came in January, and we could all see that there was a player in there, but that he had nothing left in the tank by the end of the season, and he was probably running on fumes by the end of the year last year. But I think we all knew there was a serious player in there, and he was fantastic against Real Madrid. I thought he was even better last night. I said that to my pal John. I said, Hatate is just having himself a game. It's just his intelligence, the space he takes up, his awareness, his speed of pass, the pass selection as well is just absolutely superb. And him, McGregor and Riley are clearly going to be, for any big game, if they're all fit, those are the three players that are going to start. That's just the reality, right? So Turnbull and Moy, they're not going to usurp them in a game where if Ange is picking his best 11, that's the three that go into midfield. I also just want to do a hot pursuit on Greg Taylor. Hold my hand up. I've called him out in the past. He has absolutely proven me wrong, and good for him. What a player he has become under Ange and the system that Ange plays. To be a left back or to play as a fullback is hard enough, but to be an inverted fullback and play in Ange's system where you're constantly being asked to press the ball, get up the park, and have the engine to get up and down. But also his defensive play is something we've called out in the past, as we're not sure what type of player he would be at this level. I've got nothing I can say other than good for you, Greg Taylor, and what a season he's having. And I'll be really honest, like, he'd be in line for early Player of the Year awards for me. Like, he has been absolutely that good. Him and Hatate
ahead of Jota even. Or Hatate, like, I mean, it's just, we're blessed with so many now.
I know, we are. And Hatate was just superb last night. For the 77 minutes he was on the park, he was just absolutely superb. And then just even the changes that Ange made, I'm assuming the Haksabanovic change was at halftime was partially tactical because Mudryk was causing us issue. So then you've got Maeda's defensive responsibility and Jota staying sort of permanently on the right. And then maybe just his fitness, right? We know he's come in and he maybe isn't completely match fit, but we found another player in Haksabanovic. Like, I really like the look of him. One-on-one, fantastic. And then you bring on Giakoumakis, Turnbull and Moy, and then Moy goes into that 6 role and allows McGregor to move forward. Just so much flexibility in the lineup. It is unbelievable, the squad that we've assembled, and just, it's, in my lifetime, no Celtic team has played football like this. And I mean, I wasn't alive for the Lisbon Lions, but watching old videos, like, this is a team that it gets you out of your seat, makes you want to watch, and just makes you love your club even more than you ever thought possible.
I'm the exact same, mate. I think we Celtic, even during the domination with Brendan Rodgers, and I think I've said similar things a couple of times in the channel, and the domination under Brendan Rodgers, it was great, and you were entertained and you were enjoying winning games, and we had some fantastic players, obviously, during the course of his spell as well. But even when I think back to that, it doesn't give me the joyous feeling that I get just for watching Kyogo Furuhashi sitting smiling. You know what I mean? And Celtic going out and playing in the fashion that they're doing now. And I think the other key thing is Brendan Rodgers' style of football was very much on retaining possession. And I think for Scottish teams, you can shuttle them about to the point that gaps open up. But with top European outfits, you've got to have something a bit different than side to side. You've got to have a bit more of the kind of vertical. And with Ange, we combine the two absolutely perfectly. I know that I'm going to take a pasting for this, right? But I'm going to do it anyway. I think there's some games where it might help to move McGregor forward and have Aaron Moy as the deeper guy. And then we've obviously got the other lad that's come in, Abdelgard, who could be... We've not seen him yet. I mean, I've watched a few highlights on YouTube. He looks tall, he looks big, he looks robust, but he looks like he can use the ball as well. And I think another huge hallmark of this current Celtic vintage is... and it will be vintage one day. I'm just using that, the current vintage, right? But this will be a Celtic team you look back on and you think, oh my God, how good was that era? A bit like the Martin O'Neill team. Like, and I'm sure the Brendan Rodgers team as well, like in a wee bit of time, we'll have trebles and that, you know, obviously brilliant. But this current team, every single player can take the ball in a difficult area. Every single one. From centre-back, goalkeeper, the lot. And that game last night could easily have ended 4-1 to us, a bit like Shakhtar did to Leipzig. And I definitely, based just on probability, and I'm not an XG guy, but like if you are, right, I don't know what the expected goals last night was, but I'm sure we were comfortably ahead. I look at it and I look at the way the balance of play went in last night's game. And I think as long as we deliver that performance, and the thing with Ange Postecoglou is, you know the team's going to get, like, you're no thinking that the team is going to no turn up one day. You know that the team is going to turn up, right? And I look at the amount of chances that we spawned against Real Madrid and against Shakhtar, and I'm thinking to myself, to use the Charlie Nicholas, I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, we're going to absolutely smash somebody in this group. There's going to be a team that we absolutely pound and score 3, maybe 4, maybe even 5 against. I really feel that in my bones, having watched those opening 2 games. And I'm hoping, I'm going to touch some wood to make sure that doesn't get, I don't jinx fate in any way, but I really do feel that, Chris. I think this team is capable of going out and absolutely mullering somebody. And we're talking about a Champions League level. And I cannot remember thinking that about any Celtic team, even the Martin O'Neill team. Like, I thought we could beat anyone at home, but I wasn't thinking we're going to go and smash somebody. Whereas I actually think this team has the capability to do what they did to Rangers the other week.
Yeah, it's. I think Ange even sort of reflecting on the game last night was sort of it's a similar sentiment. Like, you know, it's the Champions League you're playing in. It's the top Premier European competition. And when you go out and you perform like that, that's where he draws confidence, as do we as supporters, that it doesn't matter who we're going to play. We're going to play our style of football. We're not going to be intimidated. And we're going to try to win every game playing that style of football. And I mean, to go away from home in Europe and take a point obviously is pleasing. But I don't think I'd be alone saying that we're all disappointed we didn't win the game, and we probably should have won the game comfortably. And it is possible in one of those 2 games that we still have at home that you're right. We might lay an absolute beating on somebody in the 2 remaining home games that we have. So yeah, I mean, we're still in with a good shout in the group. You know, 2 games done out of the 6. You know, this next game against Leipzig will be huge in terms of where we could be going into the 2 home games, like I mentioned earlier. But just to kind of round out last night's game, we usually do kind of a man of the match call out. For me, I'd have to give it to Hatate, just based on his overall play last night. He's really unlucky not to be given the goal because the ball is going towards the net, and usually a deflection would be given to the player who's in the offensive position. So maybe that will eventually get changed back. But he was just superb last night. Absolutely brilliant. And again, big shout out to Greg Taylor and Jota for the second half performance. But just can't wait to see how the remaining games go in this group and how far Ange might be able to take us. And I mean, look, if we were to get, I would take 3rd place, but I'm feel like we can get 2nd. I really do. I'd love football beyond Christmas and a chance to win a knockout tie, but I feel like we've got every opportunity to qualify out of this group just based on what I've seen so far.
Just the last one. Totally agree on the shout out and the honourable mentions with the man of the match. Definitely would go the same as you, Hatate, with those two not far behind. Would it be a disappointment if we don't get at least third? Because I feel that way. I think this team performing the way they are, it would be a travesty if we didn't have European football beyond Christmas. But even if we do drop into the Europa League, I think we can win that competition.
Yeah, I won't be quite so carried away, Stuart, in terms of winning a European trophy, because it's very hard to do. But hey, there's nothing wrong with dreaming big.
If Rangers can get to the final, we can easily win it.
Well, I mean, look, we are playing some unbelievable football. I think the only thing that I want to see, and I'm sure Ange feels this way, and this is probably the message in the locker room, is we've got to be more clinical in front of goal. It's great to dominate possession. It's great to create those chances. But to win football games, you've got to score one more goal than the other team. And I know it's a cliche, but in last night's game, if we'd taken one of our 3 or 4 other really good chances, it is a comfortable win away from home. But the performances, again, as a Celtic fan and as Celtic fans, we look to see how the team is playing. And that's why I can still take some joy from the result last night, despite not getting the win. It was a tremendous match and we played superb. And on to the next one.
Onwards and upwards, we never stop. And indeed, the action never stops with Celtic, as we know. So this weekend, we have the trip to St Mirren. And of course, you'll have all your staple content that you expect from the channel. Paul will be back. For anyone that's wondering and worried about his well-being, despite huge passport queues and all of the things associated with Brexit and a bit of trouble with the police. I don't think it was anything too serious, but I just think Celtic fans had to kind of move on, and it meant that Paul and Martin, who's out there as well, were unable to do content, which is obviously really unfortunate, because one of the things that we love about us as a channel is we always have a presence there. But yeah, we'll be back this weekend with all the content you would expect. Chris, it's good to get a rodeo on the channel with you. Other than that Champions League stream, mate, this is our first one together. So hopefully the first of many, my man.
Absolutely.
Nice one. Thank you for your time today, everyone who has watched this video. Please do like, comment, and hit the subscribe button if you do. And until then, hail, hail, Mona Celtic.